Hi, folks. Pretty bummed today. Um, yeah, I told you recently back in October that one of our family's dogs died. And today, out of nowhere, it looks like the second one is going to be following him soon. Um, we had more of a warning for the first one because we knew he had cancer back in, I think it was something like September. And it took him until, well, actually, it was might have been late August that he was diagnosed with cancer, the first one, and it took him till October to die. Um, that one kind of happened abruptly because we had surgery done to try to his, get rid of his cancer, and we thought maybe he was starting to recover, but I think that the cancer had spread to his liver, and he ended up similar to the one we have now. He was acting fairly normally until a couple of days before he died, and then he had his tumor was started to bleed, and he had his stomach full of blood, and there was no saving him. So we had to put him to sleep. And he was young; he was only 11, so that was a major bummer. And he was a little angel dog, the first one that died. Very cute Shih Tzu. So that was a real crusher. The whole family was distraught. Um, Now this one's a little different. This guy is, we don't know how old he is. We got him in 2009, and he was about, no one's sure how old he was when we got him. He could have been anywhere from 2 to 6. The vet guessed 6 based on his teeth, but if he was 6, that would have made him like 17, 18 today. But which would be pretty old. One way or the other, he's an old dog. Um, he was a minimum of 13, but that's probably too low. He's at least I'm guessing he was at least 15 probably, but he could be anywhere from 14 to 20. We don't really know, but he'd had some signs of having an enlarged spleen a year ago, and we were a little reluctant to operate a year ago because he'd been previous to him to finding his enlarged spleen. He'd been gone in for a tooth cleaning, and they gave him some pre-anesthetic that made his blood pressure drop to a dangerously low level, and he had shallow breathing, and so he had to be put into a oxygen chamber to be rejuvenated. And after that, we were a little worried to have him go through a splenectomy, whatever it's called. Um, and we didn't know what the problem really was. We could have taken a fine needle aspiration of his spleen, but they said that the results wouldn't be conclusive regardless, and it just seemed like putting him through that you know, wasn't really fair to him. Um, so we just decided, well, we'll see, how he does. Um, I kind of wish now that we'd, you know, see if we could have figured out a different anesthesia that maybe he didn't have such a strong reaction to, and had removed his spleen. But he's an old dog. Um, it probably would have been difficult. Who knows? I mean, he was, almost dying from pre-anesthetic, let alone anesthetic. So, he wasn't really in any kind of shape to have major surgery even a year ago. But, this little guy, I mean, he's also a Shih Tzu Pekingese mix, very cute dog. Um, he's always had kind of behavioral issues. He's a little crazy. He actually really mellowed out the last 2, 3 years. He really stopped being. He used to be a biter. He's bit me at least 7, 8 times. So a lot of people probably wouldn't shed too many tears over him. But But as time went on, he would bite less, and a lot of times he would just sort of after a while he would just sort of put his teeth on you without biting, because that was sort of the way he showed he cared. He wouldn't bite. He would just sort of pretend to bite you, or he'd snap, but he wouldn't bite. Um, but that wasn't all the time, and it got to be increasingly rare until it was almost never would he try to bite you in the last couple of years. Only if you touched him when he was in a protective mode, protecting his favorite person, which is my mother. Um, and you could always tell when he was in that mode, so you wouldn't really mess with him. He also didn't like having his paws touched. He once tried to bite me when I touched his paws, yeah, especially his back paws. He wasn't a touchy-feely dog, but he loved me. He'd always come and sit next to me, and every now and again he'd want to be scratched on the belly, and he'd come up to me and put his paw up, and that's when I knew he wanted belly scratches. Um, so I'd scratch his belly for just long enough, and then he'd give me a little "Rrr." That's when he growled at you, you knew he was done. He was not a touchy-feely dog, but he loved me. He'd come to me, want to come sit next to me. He loved it when I'd throw his toy for him. Sometimes a lot of times, he wouldn't always drop his toy, but if he did drop his toy, he really wanted to play. Otherwise, you could always make him chase his toy. He just loved chasing toys. That was his favorite. Most of the time, if you tried to take this toy away from him, he would get defensive. It wouldn't let you. There's only one toy I could get from him consistently, which was a red squeaky ball, a little squeaky tennis ball. You could just squeeze it and pull it out of his mouth. And I could throw that many times for him, and he just never got tired of running after that ball. Um, so, yeah. Um, I used to love throwing his ball for him, and it was never a time when he wouldn't chase the ball. No matter what he was doing, he would always run after the ball if he threw the ball. And the other great thing about him was, even though most people wouldn't find this the greatest, but he was always on a hair trigger as far as protecting my mother would go. So a lot of times I would really have fun messing around with him. I would, if I went like this, opened my eyes wide and started, walking like I was secretly going to attack my mother, he would pipe up immediately. He would. We always had a game with him. It's like he would do this, and he would do this thing where he'd almost bark but not quite, and it just showed that he was, concerned. And the game was to see how long we could get him to make noises without breaking into a full bark. And that was fun. He was just so easy to mess with, and that was so entertaining. I mean, I can't tell you how many hours of entertainment we got out of getting him to react, and he would even react to silly things like my sister would dance around really goofy, like, she'd be 10 feet away from him dancing around like that, and that would cause him major, consternation. He'd start doing that, and he also loved chasing after our cat. And anytime we expressed any even minor disapproval to what the cat was doing, he would strongly react to that and would go run after her. And he'd be like, we called him the cop for the cat. He made sure that anytime the cat did something that we didn't like, he would run after the cat and bark at it and get in its face. And the cat pretty much owned him and would swipe him in the face. And he'd be like, oh, and he'd back off. He never had any power over her, but he loved chasing after her, and it was quite entertaining. We named him Vinny because he always had kind of a tough little attitude. He was like a little Napoleon type dog, and always had a much bigger personality than his tiny. He was a tiny little guy, like real small, about 12 pounds, I think, something like that. But he was really, really cute. Wish I could show you a picture, but I don't have one. Let's see. Well, maybe I do. Hold on a second. Here we go. You can take a look at him right here. Let's see here. This will just make you kind of sad, probably, but take a look at this little guy here. You see that? There he goes. Look at that little guy. Isn't he cute? He is a cute little guy. Here's another one. Sometimes he was real happy. I got a lot of cute pictures of him being a happy little guy. Let's see here. Here's another one. Sitting there. I don't know if it was my leg. Let's see here. Take a look at a few of these other ones. Here he is with my mom. Look at that. How could you not love that little face? He was so cute. Here's another one. It's a bummer, I know. Probably. And here's another one. Oh, I'm going to miss him so much. This is a funny one I took with the flash and it scared him. Look at him. There's another little one. You can see how little he is in this shot. Just a tiny little guy. We called him the Ewok sometimes. He looked a little bit like the Ewok. Now that's most of the shots, so yeah. He's a real cute little buddy. And he had quite a personality. Sometimes, for a long time, he was a major handful. And he actually came from the streets of Sacramento. He's a rescue dog. And we gave him probably the best life he could ever possibly hope for because, he was difficult to deal with, and a lot of families would have given him back. Who knows if he ever would have been kept permanently by anybody. But he really was a lot sweeter the last 2-3 years. And the funny thing was he was very trainable. He, as far as a walking dog, I don't think I'll ever have a better dog to walk with. He knew to stay behind me, and he knew a lot of tricks for treats. We could get him to. We'd do this thing, attention. He'd stand up on his hind legs, just stand up straight. We could make him do spins. We could make him lie down, roll over. We call it bang bang. He'd play dead. He could walk backwards, jump backwards. He did high five. You could tell him to speak. I mean, he knew about. He was a smart dog, smart little guy. And he was a joy to be around for me, not for everybody, but for me especially, me and my mother. He loved us both. We were his two favorites. And he just liked to sit next to you. That was his favorite thing. Not a huge petting dog. You could pet him a little bit, but only if he would come up to you and specifically ask. He put the paw up. That's how you knew. But he was a fun dog to have. I don't know. You wouldn't know unless you were me. But I had a lot of fun with him. He was a great little friend of mine. One of my favorite living things. And today he was acting perfectly normal. The last few months I did notice he was shaking a little bit. If you see your dog shaking when he's standing, especially he or she, that might be a sign of something bad. Because I noticed the same thing with the other dog that died. And just standing there, they would just constantly just be shaking a little bit. And I always wondered, is he feeling pain right now? Could he be in pain? But he always acted so normal. It's so hard to tell with dogs when they're having issues. And all day today, he just. He ran after his toys like usual. We took him for a ride in the car, and he had his same happy face in the car. We let him off in our friend's yard, and he was, frolicking through the yard like he usually does. Full run, looked absolutely fine. And then we went to the store, and while my parents were doing shopping, I took him for a little walk around the store, and then by the end of the walk, he started to be lethargic and wasn't walking at the same speed. When we got him back home, he A bad sign is if your dog arches his back. That's what he kept doing. He was like sitting down, arching his back. His breathing seemed kind of shallow, and he couldn't get comfortable. He kept moving around. He seemed like he was trying to lie down, and he kept having to stand up, and he kept trying to find a new position, but you could tell something was bothering him. We put him on the couch for a while, and he was still trying to find a place to sit down, and then he went to go jump down off the couch, and he couldn't land on his feet. He always landed on his feet, and he just stumbled and fell on his face when he fell off the couch, and we knew at that point, this is not normal. He wouldn't run after his toy. That was the other thing, he never wouldn't go after his toy. So we were like, something is wrong. He needs to go to the vet. We took him to the emergency vet. And I was hoping maybe that he'd eaten something poisonous. They'd be able to pump his stomach, or that he was just having some kind of an episode. But she called us and said, he's got a huge mass on his spleen that we should have taken out. And his liver is very small and looks like it might be failing. He had what is it called? Serosanguinous fluid in his abdomen. It's not blood, but it's fluid, probably either from his large spleen or maybe it's from his liver. Who knows? But she's telling us the prognosis is pretty poor. His breathing was shallow. He didn't even have much blood pressure at all. So they gave him an IV, and they gave him fluids, and they're giving him pain medication so he can at least not be in pain. But we weren't allowed to go because of COVID. Once we dropped him off, I was kind of hoping that we'd see him again, or they'd give it to us to bring home, and we could at least die at home. But no, they had to keep him, and they wouldn't let us come to see him. We can't go see him unless we euthanize him, which we may end up doing tomorrow, because that's what it's looking like. He's too old to deal with surgery, just like he was a year ago. So removing his spleen is probably not an option, and they're having another specialist come in tomorrow to take some kind of special ultrasound to see if there's any chance that he can recover. But they're telling us that it's really looking like that's not going to happen. We'll probably be putting him to sleep tomorrow, and so it's just a bummer. It'll be the second dog I've lost this year. 39 has not been a good year, and even worse, my birthday is coming up on Saturday. I'm going to be 40 on Saturday. And that's just sad, so much for a happy birthday. And meanwhile, the stomach pain has returned maybe 2 nights ago. My stomach pain is back, and the last few nights have really been very uncomfortable. I had a urine test today, and it came back completely normal. So again, there's nothing to go on here, and I don't know, some people are saying, there's a possibility I'm crazy. I don't think I'm crazy, there's no way I can prove it, but I really feel like, something is very wrong here. It seems like Pepto-Bismol is the only thing that makes it better, and it's like I have to be on Pepto-Bismol forever, it seems, and that doesn't really seem like a practical solution. But I didn't take the Pepto-Bismol tonight because I'm asked for them to do a upper GI series with a small bowel follow through, and hoping that any day they'll call me and tell me that that's scheduled. But it seems like they forgot about me. It seems like they've given up on me. I have an appointment on Friday to see another doctor, but I'm kind of losing the will to live here, I'm also struggling with my web development class. We got into React, which is pretty challenging. It's nothing, I guess, nothing I can't handle. And, it requires some, real grunt work and effort. But it's just kind of like, with all the things going on in my life right now, it's hard to want to focus on it. I'm being so distracted between my health and my dog dying and turning 40 and, it's just, I almost feel like maybe I should just let this thing kill me, maybe this thing will kill me, and that way I won't have to deal with the hardship of life anymore. And I know I keep saying, today was such a beautiful day. Um, the spring leaves are beautiful light green color, and weather was nice. It was a beautiful day. My dog was feeling good all day, and now it's just overshadowed. It's overshadowed by the pall of death or whatever, if that makes sense. I don't know if I can say that. Yeah, there's just a dark shadow cast over everything. And, it's just like I'm older than I've ever been. My health is garbage. I lost two of my little closest friends, which are dogs, because they're the best friends I have, these dogs. Otherwise, I've got family I love, but as friends go, I have some friends here and there that I like, but not nearly as close with them as I was with these dogs. I saw these dogs every day. Now they're both going to be gone. And I've got a birthday coming up that I'm not looking forward to anymore. I wasn't really looking forward to it in the first place. No, I'm really not. 40. Ugh. And this dog dying reminds me that my parents are going to die, and that my aunts and uncles are going to die, and maybe I'll die. Maybe I'll die before it all happens, because they still can't figure this out. I'm still pretty sure something is seriously wrong, but this is where my life's at right now. It's sad, and it's pathetic, and yeah. I really want to still appreciate things, and I know things can get better. I know if I hold on to hope that there's still good times ahead to be had, but who knows how many, if they don't get to fixing this health problem soon enough, who knows how long it'll be, how much more time I'll have to enjoy whatever there is. I don't know. I see a bleak future between that and, the slowness with which, I saw a graph today about coronavirus. I still haven't done a coronavirus video. I've been meaning to, but I saw a graph today about coronavirus, sort of putting into perspective where we are in our timeline of coronavirus compared to the Spanish flu. And at this point, the Spanish flu, it was the first little blip in the Spanish flu, and the second outbreak of the Spanish flu was huge. Way bigger than the first. It's hard to imagine. The first outbreak of COVID was so big to think that there would be another huge outbreak coming. It's not necessarily going to follow the exact pattern of the Spanish flu. We have more technology today, but you never know. History tends to repeat itself a lot, and until we have a vaccine, what do we really have as an advantage over back then? It's a different virus strain. Back then, it was H1N1 that caused the Spanish flu, but so this is coronavirus. It means it may not be the same thing, but if we're in for a second wave like they had back in 1918, oh boy, this is going to get a lot worse than it already is. And some part of me wonders, well, maybe it was a good time to leave the planet, based on the fact that my dogs have died, and I'm going down a career path that doesn't excite me whatsoever. And you know, my parents are getting old, and my family's getting old, and you know, there seems to be a little excitement left in my life going forward. Watching the planet move closer. I saw there was this article I read during this coronavirus shutdown. We've dropped carbon emissions by only 17%. Only 17%. A dramatic global shutdown of industry. Well, at least certain industries, and only a 17% reduction in carbon dioxide. I mean, that is terrifying. We need zero carbon dioxide emissions at this point if we're going to keep things on a reasonable track. And with the economy, not really functioning whatsoever, with civilization not really functioning whatsoever, well, maybe not whatsoever, but functioning minimally, 17% reduction. That just goes to show you how big the challenge is. We need to get to zero, like no joke. So, it's like there's no way out of this mess. We're really up against it at this point. And maybe it's time that I go out. Maybe God gave me this affliction because He knows that I'm not strong enough to handle the difficulties to come. He just figures, you know what? I'll do you a favor. I'll cut you out of it. Maybe life isn't worth living past this point. It was worth living up till now, I can say that, but today was a major blow for the worthiness of living life, let me tell you. So yeah, I would be crying. The dog was old, my little Vin. He was probably, we knew it was coming. It was about a matter of time. We would be kidding ourselves if we thought he was going to live on forever. And I'll probably cry when I expect to cry quite a bit when we put him down finally. But, he had a great life. I gave him a great life, and better life than he would have had anywhere else. And I was giving him lots of treats near the end because I kind of knew that his time was drawing near. So I gave him lots of pieces of cheese, which he loved, and letting him lick off my plates, which, fortunately, doesn't seem to have anything to do with his condition. But I'm going to miss that little guy so much. It's a damn shame. Cherish your dogs while you have them, because there'll come a day when you'll not want to say goodbye. And that day for me is today.